Our story begins with Sumi, a beautiful and kind girl who lives with her uncle and his wife after the death of her family. Sumi is talented in playing the piano and is famous at her school for her beauty and musical abilities. One day, while preparing to travel to Germany for a piano performance, her schoolmate Tay stops her in front of their friends and proposes, saying, "Marry me. I'm learning German to travel with you." The teacher arrives and scolds him, saying, "Learn to speak properly first to succeed, you failure." Meanwhile, Kong, a young man secretly in love with Sumi, lacks the courage to confess. He has drawn her portrait and dreams of one day showing it to her. One day, he sees her on the bus and, unable to speak, directs her to the wrong stop to avoid facing her. He gathers his courage and plans to give her the drawing, but loses his nerve and exits the bus quickly. After realizing he has her keychain by mistake, he chases after the bus to return it. During this time, the bus crashes, causing a major accident. Sumi falls into a deep coma with little hope of recovery. Kong feels guilty, believing that if he had been honest with her, she might have been safe. Years pass, and Sumi remains in her coma. Her uncle, her closest relative, pays for her hospital bills without visiting her. Elsewhere, Tai, the boy Sumi liked and wanted to travel with, becomes a renowned doctor. He keeps track of Sumi's condition and receives an overseas scholarship, planning to take Sumi with him. But it's not possible. Time passes, and Sumi remains in her coma. Then, after 13 years, a miracle happens. Sumi wakes up. However, she doesn't remember the past 13 years and believes she had an accident yesterday. She asks to see her uncle and understand what happened to her. The nurse hesitates, unsure how to explain that she is now a grown woman in her 30s with the mind of a 17-year-old. Sumi struggles to comprehend her situation. When she inquires about her friends and uncle, the nurses inform her that no one has visited her in a long time. Meanwhile, Kong has returned to Korea after his sister contacted him, saying he must return to care for her son. Chan, now a 17-year-old teenager, has two friends, Taemin and Bumba, and is excited that his uncle Kong is coming back to stay with him. At this time, Sumi is undergoing rehabilitation to walk again and is improving over time. Every time she asks about her family, the nurse avoids the question, feeling sorry for her. However, Sumi learns from another nurse that she is in the ward for abandoned patients whose families haven't inquired about them for a long time. Kong arrives in Korea and begins acting strangely, measuring the length of everything in his path. He hires a housekeeper named Jennifer to take care of Chan and Kong's elderly dog. Sumi escapes from the hospital and walks into the street but is shocked by the changes. Small houses have turned into skyscrapers, and familiar streets have disappeared. Kong, still measuring everything, is near a girl who thinks he's perverted and hits him. His secretary intervenes, explaining that he has a professional condition, not perversity, and that he's a set designer. She scolds him, saying he needs to take better care of himself and shave his hair. Sumi eventually finds her old house, which turns out to be Kong's house. She enters and finds her dog there, feeling overjoyed but exhausted. Jennifer mistakes her for Kong's niece and lets her rest in the room. That night, Kong arrives and, thinking the person resting is Chan, enters the room. Chan and the three of them scream simultaneously. Sumi says it's her house and her dog, realizing that Kong's father bought the house 13 years ago and has been taking care of the dog since then. Sumi apologizes for causing them trouble and leaves to search for her uncle but finds no trace of him. When she asks the police, they also have no information. She becomes homeless and cries alone in the street. The next day, Kong shaves his hair and his appearance changes drastically. He takes the dog to the vet, who diagnoses it with depression. Meanwhile, Sumi is alone in the street without food or shelter. A kind woman offers her chocolate biscuits, which Sumi cherishes like a treasure. By chance, Kong sits on the biscuits, ruining them. Sumi, unable to recognize him due to his changed appearance, breaks down in tears like a child. He takes her to buy new biscuits, but his appearance makes him look like he soiled himself. Sumi gives him her t-shirt, and while trying to help an elderly woman who dropped money, she gets lost and can't find Kong again. Meanwhile, Chan is training and his friend tries to talk to him, but he's uninterested. Kong's uncle is also working hard, and a woman invites him for juice, and they sit together eating sandwiches. Elsewhere, a famous musician named Ran is interviewed and asked who she thinks is better than her. She remembers Sumi from school days when Sumi was always first and felt envious of her. Now, the situation has changed and she says there's no one, just Pak Lee in the field. At this time, Sumi goes to Chan's house and asks him to look for anything that might lead her to her uncle. Chan agrees and tries to delay Kong in the room by any means. After a while, when they go downstairs, Kong realizes it's over and leaves. Chan's friend sees Kong in the house and, upon learning that she had hit him because she thought he was perverted, quickly runs away. That night, Kong and Chan hear strange and frightening sounds. When they investigate, they discover that Sumi had been in a secret room under the stairs, her own room, and had fallen asleep there from exhaustion. Later, she sits down to eat and feeds the dog. She realizes that the man with the messy hair is the same man who sat on the biscuits and is the owner of the house. However, she still doesn't know his name and refers to him as the gentleman who soiled himself. When Kong wants to kick her out to avoid trouble, Chan says it's not right to make her leave at midnight, as people will think badly of them. Afterwards, Sumi tells Chan about her house and how it's like a museum to her because it's filled with memories of her family and her entire life. She tells him that she has become lonely and that everyone she knew disappeared the next day. As she walks, Chan wishes her luck in finding her family and tells her that she has become a friend, and if she needs anything, she should know he will help. Later, they see people coming to view the house to buy it. Sumi tells Kong not to sell the house until she finds her uncle and lets him buy it. She asks Chan to help convince him. Chan persistently asks Kong to delay selling the house. Sumi also stays with them in the room under the stairs until she finds her uncle. This works, and Kong postpones the sale for a month. He also agrees to let Sumi stay with them in the same house. After a while, Tai returns from his mission and goes to visit Sumi in the hospital. He writes that she has finally woken up but learns that she escaped from the hospital. He rushes to her house to see her and meets Timon and Bom. When he asks about Sumi and describes her to them, Timon recognizes her and tells him that she was there but left. He gives him his card so they can contact her if she shows up. Later, they learn that a doctor asked about Sumi, but she thought he came to take her back to the hospital and wanted to return her. She tells them that if anyone asks about her again, to say she's not there. Sumi lives her life in Kong's house, feeling completely at home. Kong becomes upset and insists that she will leave in a month. The next day, Sumi goes to repair her old violin because it's the last gift from her mother. However, the repair costs a large amount, so she leaves feeling discouraged. She goes to look for a job, and Tim and Jennifer help her. They search together, and the next day, Jennifer gives her appropriate clothes to look for work. She applies for several jobs, but no one accepts her because she only has a middle school diploma. When she tells them she's talented and starts to play, she discovers that her talent has weakened, and her hands have become stiff from lack of practice. At that time, Tai is searching for her everywhere in the streets, hopeful and wishing to find her. Sumi applies for a part-time job at a restaurant and tries to convince them, but they don't agree. She leaves feeling sad and wonders if she had lived her life and the 13 years she lost, would she have achieved her dreams? What would she have become? She sees Chan from a distance and goes to him, trying to comfort her. She tells him that she hasn't been accepted for any job, and her talent in playing has weakened because she hasn't played in a long time. She tells him she was in a coma. He tells her to live her life and not think about the past. Meanwhile, Kong is living the worst days of his life because he no longer has any privacy due to Sumi. He also doesn't know how to pursue his hobbies, which are sadness and isolation. One day, they hear Sumi screaming happily because she got a temporary job. Sumi starts to train herself, staying up late practicing her violin. The next day, she prepares for her new job and goes to repair the violin. She asks the repairman to be patient with her, and she will pay him in installments from her job. Unusually, he agrees. Sumi forgets her phone, which Chan gave her as a gift, on the chair. The phone rings and Kong answers. He finds a message informing him that Sumi was rejected before she started working and needs to inform her. However, Kong forgets and goes to work. While there, he remembers he forgot to inform Sumi and feels sad for her. He calls her and she thinks he's coming to pick her up. He doesn't know how to tell her but gathers his strength and tells her in the worst way possible that she was rejected from her job. Sumi bursts into tears but thanks him afterward for being concerned about her. She tells him he seems cold and rude, but he has a kind heart. The next day, she goes with him to have her dog checked, and she sees someone resembling her uncle in the street. She starts to run after him but almost gets hit by cars. Kong comes and saves her, and he remembers the accident scene from 13 years ago. After saving her, she leaves him and runs to find her uncle but finds he has disappeared. She leaves, unable to reach her uncle because of him, and asks him to leave her alone. He leaves, and he decides to leave the house and stay a few days in the office to avoid interacting with Sumi, especially since he feels guilty for her not being able to reach her uncle. Chan tries to stop him, but to no avail. At that time, Sumi is searching in the place where she saw her uncle and asking everyone there. She puts up posters she drew everywhere until she sees the person she saw before. But when she sees him up close, she realizes he's not her uncle. This makes her feel guilty toward Kong because she scolded him for no reason. Meanwhile, the office phone rings and Sumi answers. Kong is responsible for the decorations of the musical event she wants to organize. When the client talks to Sumi, she feels that Sumi understands exactly what she wants to say, unlike anyone else. However, she doesn't have time to know her name because she has a meeting. Kong arrives and finds Sumi in the office. He asks her what she's doing there, and she tells him she's there to apologize for what she said. She tells him she continued searching and found that the person she saw when she was with him in the car wasn't her uncle. Kong tells her she's not obligated to apologize to him or bring him food to the office again. He asks her to leave. Later, Sumi goes to the violin repairman, and he tells her he will repair the violin and let her pay in installments. Afterwards, Sumi tries to reconcile with Kong and bring him back to the house. She goes to him and tells him she will leave the house so he can return, but he ignores her as usual and leaves. When he goes to the office, he finds Chan there and invites him to eat. He also convinces him to return to the house. The next day, Kong returns, and Sumi is happy. She gives him a simple gift, a window opener to fix the broken window. For the first time, Kong is happy and impressed by Sumi's childish yet beautiful way. The next day, Sumi decides to look for any job to gather money to repair her violin. She contracts with a restaurant to cut their vegetables. Tim and his friends help her so she can finish the work faster. The next day, Sumi continues searching for additional work. Kong sees her by chance and thinks she entered a nightclub. He goes in and causes a scene with the security, questioning how they can employ a child like Sumi. They're confused about who he is and what child he's talking about. In the end, he's thrown out, and he finds Sumi outside. She was in a restaurant next to the club. When she learns what happened, she's happy that Kong was worried about her. She tells him he seems strange and mysterious, but inside, he's a kind person. Later, Sumi meets Chan's friend at the house. When Sumi asks who she is, she says she's Chan's girlfriend, but Chan denies it and becomes very upset. Then, his friends. Chan helps Somi with her new job, but Ran becomes jealous of Chan's kind treatment towards Somi. In a fit of jealousy, Ran spills juice on Somi. Chan, upset by her behavior, tells them he will buy new clothes for Somi. However, the next day, Ran brings Somi many new clothes and tells her she should stop wearing them so that Chan won't buy her anything. Later, Somi finds a job involving cleaning a specific house. She decides to go and clean it. Upon arriving, she notices a shield with the name Doctor Tai on it. This reminds her of Tai, her schoolmate, who used to encourage her to continue with music. She recalls how much she admired him and wishes to see him again. After finishing her work, she leaves. On her way home, Somi looks at the moon through her fingers, just as her mother had taught her. At that moment, Kong walks down the street and sees her doing this. He remembers that his schoolmate used to do the same thing and recalls every detail of the day of Somi's accident. He decides to visit his doctor and tells him everything that has happened. He mentions that he has been frequently remembering the day of the accident, which has been causing him great distress. The doctor tells him that having Somi around is what's triggering these memories and advises him not to think too much about it and to try to avoid interacting with Somi for a while, as she activates old memories for him. Kong agrees to this advice. However, when he arrives at the office, he learns that Somi will be working with them, as his office manager hired her. This means he will see her every day. He asks her what her role will be, as she has no connection to design. The secretary informs him that she will be responsible for organizing the upcoming music concert, for which their office is handling the design and decoration. She also mentions that she learned from Chan that Somi has been playing music for 13 years and is the best person to determine what is suitable for the concert. Kong reluctantly accepts this reality, but tries to avoid talking to Somi to prevent triggering memories of the accident again. During this time, Chan grows closer to Somi, always trying to help her with anything and enjoying being near her. Kong, however, continues to avoid talking to Somi. When he does, Somi notices this and asks him why he is treating her this way and if she has done something to upset him. He doesn't respond and leaves the office. At that moment, the secretary announces that they need to go to the music classes now, as they are about to start. She asks about Kong, and Somi tells her he left. This bothers the secretary, who asks Somi to look for him. Somi searches for him and eventually finds him in an antique shop. However, the shop is very crowded, and she can't reach him. She asks the security guard to call Kong over the intercom, and he hears her and comes to her. They then head to the concert venue together and prepare everything before the concert starts. Somi works very hard. Afterward, they attend the concert, and Somi cries because she imagined herself as Ran, the musician. After the concert, Ran goes to greet her. When she learns that her name is Somi, she is surprised because she has heard that name before during a training session. She wonders if this is the same Somi she met before or just a coincidence. Meanwhile, Chan is at home. When Kong and Somi return home, Kong notices that Somi's hand is injured. He asks her how it happened, and she tells him she got hurt while working. She asks him to not worry, but he leaves to buy medicine. Unfortunately, all the pharmacies are closed. He returns home feeling upset and worried about her. At that moment, Kong reflects on Somi and realizes he is attracted to her and feels love for her. This is the first time he has felt this way since Somi's accident 13 years ago, and he can't believe these feelings still exist. After a while, he goes to the garden and finds Somi sitting next to a tree. He asks her what she's doing, and she tells him that this tree is the one she planted with her father when she was 10 years old. Now, the tree has grown, and she shows him another tree nearby with her height written on it. They sit together, and Kong feels happy for the first time in years. Meanwhile, Chan wants to prove himself to confess his feelings to Somi, whom he is sure he likes. He thinks about how to prove himself to her. The next day, when he goes to work, everyone notices that Kong has changed and is interacting with them more. At this point, a client arrives and asks Somi to come with him to his restaurant to help with the concert arrangements there. In reality, he is doing this because he likes her. Somi does like him, but when Kong finds out she went to the restaurant, he follows them because he is worried about her. He stays with them but drinks a lot. After they finish their work, Somi leaves, but she hears Kong running in the street behind her. He is very drunk, and his behavior is strange until he reaches a basketball court and lies down on the ground. Somi picks him up and places him in a wooden cart, pulling him all the way home because she can't leave him in the court. The next day, Kong wakes up and remembers what happened the previous night. He feels very embarrassed because Somi had to scold him, and when they went to the secretary's office, she suspected Kong's behavior had changed and felt he was interested in Somi. Later, Kong goes to the warehouse to get something but accidentally knocks over his old drawing box. Before he can put it back, he receives a call from work and leaves quickly, leaving the warehouse door open. At that moment, Somi is running after her dog, which enters the warehouse. She tries to go in after it, but doesn't see the drawings Kong made for her when she was young. She would have liked to see them to understand Kong's identity, but never mind. Jennifer arrives afterward and tells her that Kong doesn't like anyone entering the warehouse and asks her to leave. Somi explains that she entered to get her dog and nothing else, and she leaves. Later, Kong learns that his father will arrive soon to sell the house. Kong finds no reason to delay him this time and is upset that the house, which was the reason Somi stayed with him, will soon be gone. He thinks about asking her to come with him to the new house and wonders how and when to tell her. Suddenly, they are surprised when Somi says she found a small new house for herself and will live there. This upsets Kong, and he leaves angrily. Of course, Chan finds out and gets angry too. He tells Somi she should live with them in the new house, but Somi thanks him and says she will visit them from time to time. The next day, Somi goes to work and learns that they need to go to the hotel where Ran will hold her next concert to oversee the work there. They go together but discover that the car is broken down, so they have to take the train. The team notices that Sumi is tense, so they try to comfort her and ask if it's because of the article that's going to be published about her. The article mentions that she has returned to playing after a 13-year break to gain public sympathy and sell more concert tickets. So she goes to Kong's office to give him the bow he had asked her not to participate with in the concert. She tells him she knows everything and agreed to it only in exchange for the chance to return to playing. He responds that even if she has accepted it, he never could. He can't allow the girl he loves to go through something like that. This is a huge surprise for Sumi. She's left speechless, thinking to herself that this kind of talk is for adults, and she doesn't even know how to process it. But eventually, she decides to choose music and walks away from Kong. He is stunned by her reaction. Sumi returns to practice alone, playing until one of the violin strings snaps and cuts her hand. In that moment, she feels like she's going down the wrong path. For the first time in her life, she's not enjoying playing. Meanwhile, Kong is looking everywhere for her and doesn't know where she could be. When he checks the rehearsal space, he finds it locked. But Sumi is inside alone, crying. The next day, she visits Kong and tells him she would end up hating music if it ever became a source of humiliation. That's why she decided not to participate in the concert. Kong is very happy with her decision and tells her that bigger opportunities will definitely come her way. Later, Sumi recalls Kong's confession of love and becomes shy around him, trying to avoid him. Meanwhile, her coach talks to Ran and says he knows she's been feeling jealous of Sumi. He tells her that jealousy has changed her, and that Sumi is a kind person who would never hurt anyone. He advises her to let go, especially now that they're on different paths. Ran agrees that he's right and tries to stop thinking about Sumi. The next day, Sumi is helping Kong prepare for Ran's band concert. Kong notices that she looks upset and tries to cheer her up. Just then, They learn that one of the musicians is missing. Sumi is hesitant at first since she didn't bring her violin, but she decides to help out and experiences the thrill of being on stage once again. She performs beautifully, and Ran is genuinely happy for her. After the performance, Kong gives Sumi a drawing he made of her and tells her she played wonderfully. He confesses his love again. This time, Sumi tells him that she loves him too, loves the drawing, and praises him for his talent. She asks him never to stop drawing and never to stop loving her. The next day, Sumi tells Kong about her uncle. She once saw him in the city when he had told her he was traveling, and she believes that whatever made him lie back then is likely the same reason he disappeared now. Kong decides to search for her uncle himself. He prints flyers and distributes them all over the city, hoping someone will recognize him. At the same time, the solo rowing competition Chan has been preparing for is taking place. Everyone goes to cheer him on. Chan is in pain from a leg injury but decides to compete anyway, unwilling to let his hard work go to waste. He joins the race and almost loses, but in a final push, he speeds up and wins first place. Everyone is overjoyed and very proud of him. After the race, they learn that Chan's leg injury is serious, and he's admitted to the hospital for specialized care. While at the hospital, Tai appears and sees Sumi. He tells her that he has searched for her for a long time and couldn't find her. She smiles and asks who he is. He tells her he's her childhood friend and that he has kept track of her all these years. She agrees to sit and talk with him, asking if he knows where her uncle is. He tells her that he heard her uncle left the country, but had been paying for her hospital bills all these years. Then he tells her that the friend who was with her on the bus during the accident passed away. This shocks Sumi deeply. The next day, she visits her friend's grave with Kong. She cries because she had always hoped her friend was still alive. At the grave, Kong sees her friend's name and realizes it's the same girl he saw with Sumi on the bus 13 years ago. That's when Kong finally realizes that Sumi is the same girl he had fallen in love with back in high school. He holds her tightly, thanks her for still being alive, and tells her everything will be okay as long as she's safe. They return home and Kong starts remembering everything about the accident. He begins blaming himself more. Chan notices something is off with Kong but doesn't know what's going on. He tries to get closer to him to find out, but Kong won't open up to anyone. The next day, Sumi goes to the storage room looking for Kong but doesn't find him. Instead, she discovers the old drawing he made of her, which makes her emotional. It means he's known who she was all along. She starts searching for him but can't find him. She tells Chan that the drawing is of her at 17 and believes Kong must know more than he told her. Chan takes her to look for Kong at the office, but he's not there either. Meanwhile, Kong is at the airport preparing to leave the country and disappear. When Sumi returns home, she finds a letter in her room from Kong. In it, he confesses that he has loved her since high school. He tells her that he saw her on the bus the day of the accident, and that he was the one who told her to stay on until the next stop. He's felt guilty all these years and thought she had died. This revelation devastates Sumi. She realizes that Kong had been living with the burden of guilt, thinking he was the cause of everything. She heads to the bridge where she used to sit as a child, thinking deeply about Kong. At that moment, Kong arrives. He tells her he couldn't go through with leaving her and won't run away from his problems again. She tells him he was never the cause of the accident, and then reveals her side of the story. 13 years ago, she was at the airport saying goodbye to her uncle when she saw a lost child crying. She helped him find his mother, but when she returned to her spot, her violin was gone. She searched for it and learned that a young man had turned it in to Lost and Found. That young man was Kong. She had tried to find him in the airport to thank him, and she did see him from afar, but didn't manage to speak to him. A few days later, she saw him again in the neighborhood and found out he lived there. She kept watching him all the time, and every time she saw him, her heartbeat would speed up noticeably. Then one day, she saw him on the bus and decided to go thank him and give him a bell just like hers as a gift, but she was extremely shy at that moment. Kong tells her that this still doesn't mean he's not the cause of the accident, but she tells him he's not the reason. When she asked him for directions, it was just a way to start a conversation. She already knew her stop well and was going to get off there anyway, just like she always did. At that point, Kong tells her that he loves her and is grateful she came back into his life again. She tells him that she loves him too, and promises to stay by his side forever. The next day, Chan meets with Sumi and confesses that he has feelings for her, but he knows that she and Kong love each other. He says he had to tell her how he felt so he could move on, and he asks her to stay by Kong's side because it's the first time he's seen him this happy in years. He also asks if they could remain close friends, which shocks Sumi and leaves her speechless. She ends up walking away without saying anything. Meanwhile, Kong is at the hospital with Tai, and Tai tells him that the man responsible for the accident had come by and wanted to meet Sumi to apologize. He also reveals that the man was the one who had been paying Sumi's hospital bills all those years, because her uncle had stopped paying a long time ago. Kong tells Sumi what he learned and asks her to meet the man who caused the accident. She agrees, but the moment she sees him, she gets furious and tells him he's the reason her friend died. He apologizes repeatedly and admits he had been drinking and wasn't in his right mind that night. But Sumi says that's no excuse and tells him he's a criminal who should be punished. The man says she's right and admits he was afraid to turn himself in but is now ready to do so, for her sake. At that moment, Jennifer appears and recognizes the man. She tells him he's the one responsible for her husband's death. He had also been on the same bus as Sumi. After the man leaves, Sumi tells Kong she wants to find her uncle no matter what. Kong then tells her that he found out her uncle declared bankruptcy and also separated from his wife. Sumi is shocked, since her uncle and his wife had loved each other deeply. Kong says he knows where the wife is now and offers to take her there. They go to her shop and look for her, but they don't find her. So they decide to head back home, feeling defeated. Suddenly, her uncle's wife appears, calls out to Sumi, and asks to speak with her. Sumi immediately asks where her uncle is. The woman cries and tells her that her uncle stayed by her side for over a year after the accident, waiting for her to wake up. But at the same time, his business was going through a major crisis and eventually went bankrupt. On top of that, he was dealing with heart problems. Eventually, he passed away from the pain and stress. Sumi is completely shocked and struggles to process the news. She had always hoped to see her uncle one more time. Sumi falls into depression, and Kong stays by her side the whole time to support her and help her through the pain. Thanks to his care, Sumi is able to recover and return to her normal self. A few days later, she receives a message from Ran, suggesting that Sumi study music formally so she can become a certified musician and participate in international concerts. Sumi asks for Kong's opinion, and he tells her that no one else can make that decision for her. It's hers alone. Sumi thinks about it for a while, then decides to accept the offer and go abroad. Kong tells her he'll come visit her in Berlin in a few months. On the day of her flight, Sumi decides to go to the airport alone because she doesn't like goodbyes. But at the last moment, she changes her mind, cancels her trip, and goes to Kong. She tells him that she's decided to stay in Korea because she doesn't want to waste a single moment away from the people she loves. Kong hugs her and tells her she made the right decision and that he loves her. She tells him that she loves him too and doesn't want to be apart from him. From then on, they live together and become a beautiful family. And that's how our series ends today. If you like this summary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new recaps. Goodbye.